Welcome everyone to our 23rd episode. This is a space where I want to empower you all to be relationship experts. I'm Kimia Shastadi, the founder of Love Story, a matchmaking and love coaching company. If you ever want help with finding or keeping love, please message me. Bit of background about me before we jump in. I have a master's in clinical behavioral psychology, specializing in relationships. I published psychology studies and journals on relationships, happily married for almost 5 years this month, and helped over 100 people with relationships, matched over 20 couples. Welcoming my husband, who's here today, Armand. Thank you so much for coming. Awesome to see you, Polly and Max. Awesome. So at any point at all on today's session, if you want to ask any questions, share any stories, make any comments, always welcome to do that. It's really encouraged. We always learn so much more when we hear each other's perspectives, because someone might say something in a way that really resonates with us and it was just the right type of wording gets through. So that's always welcome. I'll keep an eye on requests for anyone who wants to speak. All right. So today's topic is on attachment styles, and my voice is also a little funny, so I just got sick last night, and so I've got the runny noses since last night, so I apologize for that and my voice a little bit. Okay, so attachment styles: anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, secure attachment. This is probably the second biggest well-known thing in relationship psychology, I would say, after love languages. It seems like love languages has gotten the most press in the world, and the next one is attachment styles. I know there's a popular book written, I think it's called Attached, and yeah, I heard people reading about it, which is, always exciting that people are learning more about this stuff. So I think this is a really good topic to dive in on. I had someone reach out to me in the last week about it, actually wanting to discuss it further. So this is an awesome space to do that. I've actually written a paper on attachment styles that you can find on Google Scholar, so quite well known. Like, I know a lot about this field, and there are some misconceptions too. So I think it's a really good time to talk about it, and for you guys to know that part as well. And then we'll jump into Reddit questions so we can apply everything we're learning and practice it. Okay, so let's start with attachment styles. So just so you guys can, contextualize this, attachment kind of starts already before you're born. So there's some genetic element to it as well. So when you think of a newborn baby, even in the first few months, some babies cry more, some babies cry less. And that's already a genetic component of it. And then from the moment people are born, their main primary caregiver, which usually is the mum, but it could be anyone who's taken the most kind of active involvement in raising the kid as soon as they're born. And we start learning attachment from as soon as we're born. So we've got a genetic component to it. And then from when we're born, we start learning what attachment style is from our primary caregiver. So if we kind of think about it from that point, they tried to do studies to kind of see what is the distribution of the population for each of these things. And some rough numbers are probably about 20% of the population is anxiously attached, 25% are about avoidant attached. But these are obviously categorical boxes, and in reality, these things are a continuum. It's a dimension. So, sometimes someone can be more intensely on the anxious side, and then more sometimes on the secure side. And so it's not like if you're in a box, you're going to be there forever. And each of the things that you learn to communicate better brings you closer and closer to attachment, like secure attachment. So it is definitely a continuum. And if you feel like you identify with some of these things, that when we kind of dive into each one, I really want you to kind of remember that you're not like stuck with this forever or anything. These are very common things people experience. Even the healthiest people, the most secure people, can relate to these things too. A lot of my sessions, like the last 33 sessions we've done, I really focus on skills, because skills are what help us get the best relationships and things like that, not so much focusing on labels, especially negative labels that we can put out on ourselves, because sometimes it can get a bit overwhelming and you might think, oh, this is just the way I am. And that's not helpful. I want you to think it's as easy as possible to learn these skills. So that's kind of my bit of biased background to this stuff when I'm explaining it, because I don't want to pigeonhole anyone into these things, and let you guys know these are quite common things. Okay, so I see you guys, the speakers have come up. Awesome. So whenever you guys want to speak, just feel free to unmute. You're welcome to. Awesome. So let's jump into what anxious behavior is. So in my paper that I published, this is how I defined it. So attachment behavior is seeking comfort and security from attachment figure in times of distress and emotional regulation. And then the brief description I give is attachment anxiety refers to one's worry over the attachment figure's availability And attachment avoidance refers to one's discomfort with closeness and dependence on others. And so romantic relationships involve intimacy, availability, responsiveness, comfort, commitment, loyalty, all of those things and more. That's why understanding attachment styles in the context of romantic relationships are useful. So that's a bit of a clinical explanation. I can do a more, conversational explanation that might resonate a bit better. So let's start with, if we start at the primary place where we start shaping these things from when we're born, usually with, oh, Max, I see you unmuted. Did you want to say something?
Oh, no, sorry, that was an
Oh,
accident.
good. Awesome. So when, our parents actually have a lot of weight, or whoever raised us has a lot of weight into kind of shaping our attachment styles, because as babies, we don't know what we're doing. So we're really at the mercy of whoever's raising us to kind of shape these behaviors. So if you kind of have, parents that are, really overprotective. They go from 0 to 100 quickly, and it's unpredictable, it's inconsistent. These things generally result in someone having a more anxious attachment. And it's possible to feel anxious and avoidant. So that's possible too. But yeah, so if you think about your own parents, like, do they sometimes go from like being like all happy to like immediately angry and yelling at you, and you just don't understand how they went from 0 to 100 that quickly? And so it's hard to predict their behavior. Or maybe they're just like really anxious, and they've kind of told you the world is a scary place, and they're really trying to protect you in every way they can. And so like they've there's a lot of things they can do to kind of create more anxiety. So those things, are more likely to push you in the direction of, on the dimension of being more anxious. And then if you had parents that were more like unavailable, for example, they went to work, just didn't have as much time, they really pushed you to be independent, they withdrew their love, unless you showed them something that they were looking for. Just as an easy example, like if someone really appreciates accomplishments and they don't give you love any other way, that's something that you learn, that, okay, if I want love, I need to do this thing. So those things kind of might result to you being a little more pushed on the avoidant attachment style. So that's kind of a little bit of a guidance on what could push you in those ways. And then, if you had predictable parents that were available, loving, a healthy amount of protection and independence, those usually push you towards a more secure attachment. But obviously everything in your life can also push you in different directions. But because we spend so much time usually with our primary caregivers growing up, they have, they shape kind of the fundamental stuff that we might hold potentially to this day. Doesn't mean you can't change it, but it's good to at least know. So, for example, if I'm being fully transparent with my own life, I didn't have a good dad. He was really abusive and things like that. And so growing up, I was, trying to get my dad to love me. And then what my, when I was young and I was trying to find love for myself, I was chasing guys that didn't love me. And that felt normal because I grew up feeling that. So this was, although it was an awful feeling, it's something that felt comfortable to me because I've experienced that before. And, something, I don't know, I wasn't falling into healthy things until I really started, studying the stuff in psychology and applying all the stuff in relationships, and like having standards for myself, knowing what healthy even looks like. But I share that example so you guys can see that, our very natural environments growing up, if they're, unhealthy in some ways, it can very easily show up in your love life, and you might not even notice that, wow, this is almost exactly the same, just a different context. And, let me even figure out what healthy looks like. So it can be as simple as that. And, living proof over here myself that you can break out of that. And, I'm happily married to this day to this awesome guy, have a much healthier relationship. So it's definitely possible. Okay, so I found another description of attachment and avoidant, with more like real life examples so you guys can relate to it before we jump into the Reddit questions. So anxious attachment. So it's, you want to be close and are able to be intimate. So those are good things. To maintain a positive connection, you give up your needs to please and accommodate your partner. But because you don't get your needs met, you become unhappy. You're preoccupied with the relationship and highly attuned to your partner, worrying that he or she wants less closeness. You often take things personally with a negative twist and project negative outcomes. This could be explained by, potentially brain differences or other things. I don't necessarily agree with that. To alleviate your anxiety, you may play games or manipulate your partner to get attention and reassurance by withdrawing, acting out emotionally, not returning calls, provoking jealousy, or threatening to leave. You may also become jealous of his or her attention to others and call or text frequently, even when asked not to. If you avoid closeness, your independence and self sufficiency are more important to you than intimacy. If you can enjoy closeness to a limit in a relationship, you can act self sufficient. Okay, wait. I think I might have jumbled them a bit. Anyway, let's stick to the first part. The first part was good. And then avoidant attachment is more um, just as the anxiously attached person is hypervigilant for signs of distance, you're hypervigilant about your partner's attempts to control you or limit your autonomy and freedom in any way. You engage in distancing behaviors such as flirting, making unilateral decisions, ignoring your partner, or dismissing his or her feelings and needs. Your partner may complain that you don't seem to need him or her, or that you're not open enough because you keep secrets or don't share feelings. In fact, he or she often appears needy to you, but this makes you feel strong and self sufficient by comparison. You don't need to worry about a relationship ending. But if the relationship is threatened, you pretend to yourself that you don't have attachment needs and bury your feelings of distance. If it's not that the needs don't exist, they're repressed. Alternatively, you might become more anxious because the possibility of closeness no longer threatens you. So that's some of the differences. There's some anxiety ones, examples that I think I just had to keep reading. I freaked myself out that it was bleeding into the other one too much. But with the anxious one, examples were to alleviate your anxiety, you may play games or manipulate your partner to get attention and reassurance by withdrawing, acting out emotionally, not returning calls, provoking jealousy, threatening to leave. You may also become jealous of his or her attention, call or text frequently, even when asked not to. And then for example, in one study of partners saying goodbye in an airport, avoiders didn't display much contact, anxiety, or sadness in contrast to others. You protect your freedom and delay commitment. Once committed, you create mental distance with ongoing dissatisfaction with your relationship, focusing on your partner's minor flaws or reminiscing about your single days or other idealized relationships. So hopefully these are some examples that maybe you can relate to some extent. And just think about. Um, I'm just having a quick read. Yeah. And then so in contrast, if you want to think about what a secure attachment even looks like, we've talked about anxious and avoidant, but secure would be more like warmth and loving coming naturally. You're able to be intimate without worrying about the relationship or little misunderstandings. You accept your partner's minor shortcomings, treat them or her with love and respect. You don't play games or manipulate, but are direct and able to openly and assertively share your wins and losses, needs and feelings. You're also responsive to those of your partner and try to meet your partner's needs. Because you have good self-esteem, you don't take things personally and aren't reactive to criticism. Thus, you don't become defensive in conflicts. Instead, you de-escalate them by problem solving, forgiving, and apologizing. So if you notice, if you've been to other spaces that I've held on Thursdays, I try and teach you guys these skills just separately, but they're very relevant. For example, to help, push you more on the dimension side to, that healthy, secure, like, talking about, you're not bottling, bottling is bad, asking for what you want, all this problem solving stuff, how to have, a disagreement pretty much in a healthy way. Disagreements are very common. They're going to happen no matter how hard you try because no two people are exactly the same. But yeah, so there's a lot of helpful skills in there that help make secure attachment people securely attached. So if we jump back, I want to give you guys a moment on the floor. I know I've been nonstop talking. Is there anything you guys wanted to share or ask? I see your hand. Paulie, go for it.
Hello once again. Thanks for having
Hello.
us. It's good to be back. Yeah, no, it's pretty wild because since I started listening and talking with you, I've mentioned multiple times about a relationship that I had and I struggled with. And in your reading, uh, you honestly absolutely nailed our dynamic to a T. It was very weird listening to you talk about it because the way you described the anxious type, which was me, um, the person that was always paying close attention, trying to read the other person, trying to adjust my behavior to make sure that the other person try not to ruffle any feathers, try to avoid any conflict, try to figure out what the right move is at all times to the point where I was stressing. I was stressing about it. It felt like no matter what I did, it never worked, and it really sucked the life out of me. And my partner, who was an avoidant attachment, she had a terrible relationship with her father as well. She didn't know how to allow me to love her because I think as I've learned, maybe she didn't really learn how to let herself be loved in the right ways. So she was very untrusting of my love and what I was trying to do, and it was like a wall was just up, and no matter what I tried to do, it was as if I did something wrong once and we figured out it was wrong, and then the next time that situation would happen, I tried a different thing and that was also wrong. So these kind of relationships are so tough. Um, and to get to what you were talking about, the secure relationships, I wasn't emotionally intelligent enough and mature enough in our relationship to be able to, I think, lead us towards that sort of secure relationship. And I don't know if I would have been able to, right? Like it takes two people. But I feel that I've learned more about myself since that. I think I look back on things now with a new perspective. And I think this is a really interesting topic. I'm glad it was brought up. It's why I immediately came up to speaker because I knew I was going to I was going to very much connect with this topic, and I like chatting anyways. So yeah, it's I'd love to hear other people if anyone else here feels they can relate to it. I love hearing other perspectives and other experiences. I think it's helpful for us to hear other people go through similar things and hopefully I can hear some things that I can take and use moving forward.
Thank you, Polly. It's so helpful to hear your perspective on it, and that it nailed the nail on the head with this stuff, which is sometimes really helpful to kind of be like, that's what it is, that's what it was, and it is hard when there's differences. One of the biggest things that in psychology they found that result in happy marriages or relationships lasting and staying happy is a similarity. So someone might be on the anxious side more, but it also might be they just really like talking and connecting with someone, and they would appreciate texting someone kind of throughout the day, and then have video calls with them like once or twice a day, maybe for a few hours. And to someone else that might be way too much. That's something they can't commit to, or want for some reason. But I don't think necessarily just because someone wants that level of closeness there's anything wrong with them. There are definitely people out there that would love that and be like, this is exactly what I want. And so some people, kind of sometimes go get therapy for themselves to work on this stuff when they just haven't found someone that is similar to them. And it's okay to, have these behaviors because there's people out there that would totally appreciate that. And then on the other end, people that, maybe someone is fine with getting one text a day, or maybe like, I don't know, one video call, or I don't know, just like on the other end of the spectrum, like if both are perfectly fine and they can have that really close, that close feelings, and that could work. It's only when one person in a relationship feels like it's not enough, or they don't feel like it's a fulfilling relationship for them as much anymore. That's when it becomes important. So like if the distant people feel like, oh, look, I don't actually feel that close to you. Maybe we should spend more time together, or like, open up, be more vulnerable with each other or something. Then that becomes an issue you address. Or on the other end, if someone's like, hey, I'm kind of struggling to do my job because I'm video calling you all the time, that starts becoming a functional problem. So then you can like put things in place to kind of make it more functional and healthy. But yeah, I just want you guys to know that, you know, similarity is important. So wherever you fit on this spectrum of like anxious, secure, avoidant, whatever, there are people that are exactly where you are as well. And so if you find someone like that, similarity wise, it's smooth sailing. It's not like you have to change everything about yourself to be at the perfect, healthy, secure level to be able to attract someone. Because we're all human as well. So I wanted to put that similarity piece in there, that it could just be possible you haven't met someone similar enough to you, and that is maybe something you can filter your like when you're if you're in the dating phase, maybe you can look for someone who also has a similar attachment style to you, because that makes so many things more easier. Maybe it's not the most important thing, but it's something that you can consider when you're looking. um, Anything else anyone wants to say or share anything from their own story?
I was just going to say, I think you're talking about finding similar people, and it made me think about the most common thing we hear. A lot of people, I feel like it's really common, the whole opposites attract thing, and I find that as an interesting saying. I wonder if there's a reason that is it an attempt to justify like the fact that we sometimes look for something that we don't have in others, when it could it's oh man, now we could go down a real rabbit hole. Oh man, my brain just I don't know if I was ready for this. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
whole different conversation. I think that that might be a whole show in and of itself.
No, no. So this one is actually a really good point. So they, because there is, in society, people say opposites attract, and then the other end is, birds of a feather flock together or something like that. The similarity one, whatever it is. And so psychologists actually went and studied this because they're like, hey, there's like two pretty opposite like things out there. Which one is more? I don't know. At least with what they could find. And so they studied it, and the similarity one is really what they found. Maybe opposites can attract at the beginning for whatever reason, but the ones that last and are happy usually are similar in as many ways as possible, especially important things. And so once I found that out in my undergrad, like that really changed my perspective because it's, opposites attract is just so well known. And it's so hard to break out of that and know that it's not helping you. Like it's actually hindering you in a really big way the more differences you have, because they are points of conflict that you have to work even harder now to just problem solve and be really mature about and everything like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you just helped guide me through to the answer I needed. I wonder
Yay.
if when we are not prepared for the right kind of love or relationship, if we aren't don't feel whole, maybe we seek what we want uh, for ourselves in others. So maybe it's when we look for people who are like us. Ooh, is it when we look for people that are like us that we're willing to love, that it's a sign that we love ourselves? And if we look for love in others who are not like us, we wish we were someone else. Ooh.
There definitely could be some of that at play, because if you're looking for something that you don't have, um, if it's very different, then you could very easily put them on a pedestal, and that just changes the dynamic, or you don't feel equal to them, and so it's very easy to feel like more anxious or attached in situations like that. So definitely there could be an element of that. I would say you can't find someone exactly the same as you. So if you're trying to, obviously just know, even identical twins are not the same. They have personality differences. So we're not going to find someone identical, but the closer we get to, what we're looking for, what we are, um, even if you're on the path to go where you want to go and someone's already there, like as long as you're not always putting them on a pedestal, and like they also think highly of you, um, and then it could work out. But yeah, I think that it's important to think about these things. That's why it's really relevant to think about what you're looking for in a partner, what you value personally, not what anyone else values, what you value, and what similar things you appreciate. Django, I saw you come up. Is there anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, give me like 1 second, like I don't know, like 30 seconds.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Take your time. Take your time. So we'll chat for a bit, and then I've got 2 Reddit questions that we can tackle with kind of knowing about attachment styles a little more. But yeah, Paul, you actually got me thinking a little bit with that question.
Okay, I'm back. Can y'all hear me?
Awesome. Yes.
Okay, hey y'all, it's Django UU here. Working with Z Talent, my main Zal. He was trying to pop in earlier today, but I don't know if he did. I know he's at UVR at Miami at the Art Basel. So maybe he'll pop through later. I'm not sure. But me, I'm in the city because I could not afford to fly out to Miami. And for people who don't know, I'm a musician. I'm 24, and yeah, my genre is like experimental hip hop and all that good stuff. And I don't know. Where Paulie's thought on attracting people, opposites attract, and like finding people who have things that you don't have. So I feel like I can speak to that on a personal level. So first things first, I think opposites attract really only works on like a sexual level. I'm gonna keep it all the way a buck, because as a black man who went to a predominantly white institution for college, that's a PWI for short or whatnot, there were a lot of white girls and shit who just never seen a nigga before, never interacted with a nigga before, like, and like I'm not even like hood. Like I'm gonna be honest, like I'm really not hood at all. Like, bro, I was a whole pro gamer for like 5-6 years. Like I'm really the opposite of fucking hood. My mom would literally tell my grandma when I was a kid, do not let my kid go outside. And so I would stay in the house. And so I really think that's how I got ADHD, because like I was that bored. My brain just decided to like overclock itself, But
Yeah.
but regardless though, like on a sexual level, it makes perfect sense because you got someone who you've never interacted with before, you've never seen this type of shit before, you got a fascination for it. Like I think push eventually turns to shove, and that sexual attraction can pop up, because and that essentially what I was for a lot of these little white girls and these Spanish chicks who had never ever dealt with a black guy before, things of that nature. These Asian chicks, that's what I was. I was like an idea, you know. I was an idea to them, you know, an idea they never really engaged in before. You know, I was a fantasy even, you know. And so if you can fulfill that, you know, then nigga, you balling type shit, right? But the problem is when you go looking for shit outside of yourself, knowing you don't have it, so you try to get that externally, and then you might find yourself in a situation where you found that person who has the thing that you want, right? But you get all this other shit that comes with dealing with this type of person that you weren't ready to deal with. So, for example, when I was like 22, or I was 23, I was 23, was that shit? It's having. Yeah, I was 23. I was 23. All right, so when I was 23, like just a couple months, like I just turned 23 type shit, right? Um, I was dealing with this chick, and she was cute, you know. She had like my physical stuff or whatnot. But my thing, what I liked about her was that, you know, she was kind of a freak, you know, like she was a little wild with it, and I was, you know, me like having like little experience type shit. Like I was like, you know, I was like, shit, like I can learn a couple things, you know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be good, like it's gonna be good, and also. And the other thing that she was she was like all about the open shit. Like she didn't really want to put labels on shit. Like she just was on my type of timing. You know what I'm saying? At the time. But the thing was, I didn't really realize this, but I wanted a girlfriend. But I just thought I just wanted to fuck. But turns out I wanted a girlfriend. I wanted something more serious. But in my brain, I had been single for so long, I was fucking scared shitless of having a girlfriend. I wanted my freedom. You know, I wanted to be able to still indulge in the idea of like having multiple bitches, even though I literally didn't. Like, like I literally didn't have that at that point in my life. Like I was spending most of my time like in my home studio making music, trying to get better, and like fucking hating all my music. Like I had other issues to worry about. Like, and yeah, I'm still trying to indulge in this fucking idealized fantasy I have of myself in my head, right? But I ended up finding a chick who was about that shit, like by chance, literally by chance. Like I knew her, but like I didn't know she was like this, right? And I didn't know she had like that type of interest in me. So like first, you know, having a good time and whatnot. But then when I started dealing with her more often and just seeing all the shit that was going on, I'm like, fuck, yo, because I started getting hurt left and right. I felt disrespected here and there. Like I remember we went out, like, shit, man, like, shit sucked. Like shit, that sucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit was hard. I remember like she was messing with some other guy, and like we would go out together. She'd be like, yeah, I'm looking for like a main nigga or whatnot, right? And I'm just like, I'm literally here right now though. Like I can literally be that, right? But like, yeah, like so, like, and that's the thing. When you deal with people like that, like, or you deal with people who have things that you don't have, you're not ready to take on the other shit that comes with them having the things that you don't have. So like, for example, like a woman might want, like, you know, a man with a gun, right? Because it makes her like feel safe and whatnot, and because she got some trauma or some shit, where some crazy nigga broke into her house and like, I don't know, like beat her dad up, beat her daddy up, like made her dad his bitch or some shit. I don't fucking know. Just like an extreme example, right? So she likes her boyfriend to have a gun because she feels more protected with that, right? But then the nigga who has the gun is fucking insane. He like, for lack of a better term, like he pistol whips her. He does this, he does that. He's a gangbanger. He sells 85 bricks of cocaine every 2.5 business days. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, he's a super trapper, and like a super trapper, thugged out dude, right? But and on the real, she wasn't really ready or really capable of dealing with all that. She just wanted the nigga with the gun, you know? So that's kind of where I'm like, yeah, you gotta be careful what you wish for, almost, you know? Because if you end up getting your opposite and you're not ready to deal with all the opposite shit they have going for them, like for example, like me, I was a nigga who was getting no bitches, no type of play at that point in my life, you know? And I'm dealing with a chick who, there's so much dick being thrown at her, she literally can't even take it all. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I couldn't handle that at all. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's very much a thing of like, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful what you wish for. You honestly, sometimes you really want the opposite to not actually attract. You know, because if you get the opposite to attract them at a more serious level, good luck. Because truthfully, most long-term relationships, the values align. They're not opposed. And that's all I gotta say, y'all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, that's what Kimia you were talking about early on, right? Early in the space about how our childhoods can guide our decision making and what we look for in our relationships. And if, as you said, Django, a woman, maybe she grew up in a home where she didn't feel safe, so she looks for men that exhibit strong masculine behaviors, maybe, or what they deem to be. Maybe it's someone they say, wow, that's a scary person. They'll keep me safe. I'll go with that guy. And a lot of sketchy stuff can come with that, as you said. And it can be really difficult to break out of those cycles that those childhood traumas can can really make a part of our very being, right? Because we look for what we see when we're children, and it guides us through our life. And I think maturity and growing up is unlearning the crap we learn when we're kids, right? Like getting into the real world and being like, oh, okay, I actually can like learn things on my own. I don't need all these lessons. I get to decide what lessons I need to keep and what
Yeah, that's
what
facts.
information, what info I need to learn for myself and use to adjust my actions accordingly.
That's facts. Like I would even like say like confidence. This is actually something I learned from somebody else, ironically. But this was like I learned this back when it's a period in my life where I was really trying to like develop confidence. At this point, I was working in 3 jobs, about 80 hours a week, trying to pay off some debts I had at the time. And ironically, I'm trying to figure out confidence, and meanwhile, I'm literally doing this. Like I literally don't know anybody else who could do that. But yeah, ironically, I was trying to learn confidence, and the thing I learned was confidence is not really the shit you pick up; it's the shit you strip. Like, because every 5-year-old knows jack shit. Like every 5-year-old literally is dumb as a box of fucking rocks. Like they just are. You can't tell me, oh, they don't know any better. Just because you don't know any better doesn't mean you're not dumb as a box of fucking rocks. Like literally, like every 5-year-old kid knows jack shit, but that doesn't make them any less confident. They still interact with their world like the best and the only way they know how to, which is with poise, with comfort, and with like literally no idea, and with literally to the point where it's almost like delusion. Like a 5-year-old would like stick their hand on a hot stove because they have no concept of the fact that the shit's gonna burn them. Like that shit is not dawn to them. In the rings, no doorbells. So that's the thing. With confidence, is like you gotta strip it. It's all the stuff you learn that like you need to unlearn. You gotta taking off layers of. Like it's like you step outside, right, and it's like minus 50 degrees, and then you step inside a building, and it's like 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and so you obviously gotta take the coats off, gotta take the layers off. That's what like getting your confidence is. It's like stripping off the layers, peeling off the layers and whatnot.
Thank you, Django. Thank you, Paulie. I've got a response, but I'll let Deep Dark Crypto come up. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Django, I was going to say, I just joined in, so I caught the last half of what you were saying. But, fear is your ultimate worst enemy, and getting out of your comfort zone is your best solution. And until you can face your fear, whatever it is, of rejection, whatever, I don't know, I could go on for days, and getting out of your comfort zone, that will give you that confidence that you want. But that's all I really got to say.
Thank you so much. Very, very good input. Thank you. Bijan, I see you're coming up. He's just connecting.
Fear tells you where to push yourself. Where you still have room for improvement. Fear tells you, where you can grow, in my opinion. Just don't interpret it as a negative thing. Interpret it as a positive.
I've actually never thought it as thinking of it as your friend. Like I've thought about what you've said with other words, but I like that. It is a good tell, and it's such a nice positive spin on something that's negative and so feared. It just reminds me of I don't know why, but it made me think of Harry Potter and the Dementors with the fear, and then just being strong enough to. It's not very
well. Fear is an interesting thing to discuss because in essence, fear is a good thing. It's something that nature created as a form of survival, right? But as we've evolved and as we've become more intellectual beings that are able to delve into more abstract concepts like love and building for a future and building civilizations and doing everything we've done, we've eliminated a lot of the need for fear in a survival sense. But we're still programmed to feel fear, right? So being able to navigate the world in a more in a way that we're more understanding of ourselves, it allows us to navigate our emotions more clearly, so that we can figure out what fear do I really need, what fears do I need to overcome, and what fears just flat out don't have to be there, right? And we've kind of gone off the rails a little bit from the conversation, but this boils down back to the attachment styles, right? Fear within relationships, being anxious because you fear that you're not good enough and that your partner is going to lose interest and leave you, and avoidant where maybe you fear allowing yourself to be loved, because if you allow yourself to be loved and that person realizes you're not good enough, then they'll leave you. And so you're both kind of fearing the same thing. You're just fearing the path in a different way.
Well
I
done.
agree.
Love it. Love it. That was a great summary, Paulie. I feel like you've really taken in all the stuff that we were saying earlier. Well done.
Yeah.
And
One more
hey,
thing.
Bijan, go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to say, don't forget the saying that people who are brave, they still feel fear. They just do it anyways. Fear never goes away, man. It's not about, oh, I won't be afraid anymore. It's about, oh, I'll feel the fear, but I got this. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a key part to it for sure. It's
Yeah,
not something we
exactly.
can
I
get rid
agree
of.
with him 200%.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Great conversation, you guys. There was stuff that Django said before some people joined, and I didn't, I wanted to make sure Deep Dark Crypto had his moment to speak. But some of the things that he was saying before, you know, one element of when he was describing, he was like the one black guy in like a room, in school with like so many white people and things like that. So he and his parents and family kind of, didn't let him outside because it was not, trained him to think it's not safe. And so he grew up thinking like white people are safe, and that's in most of the people that he was around. So he actually, similarity wise, even though the color of his skin is different, he actually similarity wise felt more closer to white people because of his environment. So I think that's something that I wanted to touch on, why he felt more similarity in that way for the attraction. And then he touched on a lot of different things, but talking about sex was one thing. So he was like, opposites attract for sex, and so that's kind of what he wanted. But then he, got attached and then wanted something more. And then that girl was in an open relationship and didn't see him in that way. And then, things unraveled, and that's not what he signed up for, what he was talking about. So it's really important. Like if you are looking for like a long-term, happy, lasting relationship, then you have to think, what attributes does that person have? And so for that, and so all the signs that they've researched so far points to similarity helps. Obviously, no two people are identical, but so in the long term, in the short term, opposites attract, could work. But if you're looking in the long term, you have to see more things. Like there's higher standards that you need to look for. And then so he gave the example of, if someone for whatever reason wanted someone who has a gun, but then they might also be a pimp and like a gangster or something like that, and that's not what they wanted. They just wanted the protection part. To me, that shows like you need to think about all the different, like your bar needs to be higher. And you need to think about it, and you need to think about what is healthy and what are you looking for, and get really specific with that. Don't stop at, I just want a guy with a gun. Please go further than that, and think about all the other things that you want, and hopefully, being treated well and being treated kindly and with respect, and all these other good things are requirements that you aren't willing to compromise on. So there's definitely a lot of pieces there, and really unpacking what healthy looks like, so then you can actually have a shot at it. But if you never unpack what healthy looks like, then we kind of like stay in our own little loops of, I don't know, whatever our attachment styles are for us to react the way that we do. Paulie, go for it, and then we'll jump into Reddit questions.
Yeah, I would love at some point for us to maybe do a space that touches on the relationship between masculine and feminine energies. That's something that I've been interested in learning about. I know for me, being in a relationship as more anxious with as a man, with a more avoidant as a female, because I was trying to do all the right things. I'm sure I went in more into maybe my feminine side, which I think, forced her to feel she needed to be more in her masculine energy, which I've heard people say women do not want to be in their masculine. They will enter it if they feel they need to, and if they do too much, it can be an issue in the relationship. So I think that's an interesting angle of it. Is do avoidant women tend to enter their masculine more, and will anxious men tend to go into their feminine more? I think that's an interesting angle to this as well, because it's not just as I think there's different layers to this. It's psychology. You know better than anyone. This is complicated stuff, right? It very rarely is this stuff black and white. There's a lot of different aspects and layers to these things. So I'm sure we could spend a whole month just breaking this stuff down.
We could. Bijan, I saw you come up. I think you got a good response to this one.
Yeah, I think I saw recently a diagram basically explaining it, that a guy, you can imagine a person, and a bunch of arrows are pointing out from him to the outside world. And that's masculinity. That's like asserting yourself on the world, and not being affected by the world, but affecting the world. And a feminine person, it's like a person and there's a bunch of arrows around them pointing to them, where the world is affecting them, and their relationship with the world is one of receiving and, being affected by. And I think it's a really beautiful and succinct way of describing it. I don't know if, Kimia, if you disagree, feel free, but that's the way that I see it.
Well, that's interesting. With this stuff, I look at it more case by case, and if I had to draw like broad stroke generalizations, I think the starting point with that is, what someone's attracted to. So obviously, even sexuality is a spectrum. So some people are, are women, and they, have a lot of like girly girl feminine energy. And then there's, masculine men that are, very dominant in their masculine energy. And so those, and they're both only attracted to the opposite of, their sexuality and gender and things. And so that works really well. But then there's all these other people where they actually sometimes prefer like someone who's like a middle energy between masculine and feminine, or like they like it to some extent. Like I remember like there was this one girl, like for example, even like with penis size, like she wanted a really small one, like that's what she felt comfortable with. And so like, there's just so many different variations with what people prefer that it's hard to make broad strokes. But I would say in general, when someone is super feminine and someone's super masculine, those are a really strong match for each other because it's very clear what they're looking for. And then so if I don't know, for some reason the man you know I don't know, wasn't doing the things that the girl was expecting, then maybe she would have to take more of that role. So, for example, with parents, with single parents, the other half is gone, so they have to be both parents to their kids, and so they have to tap into whatever that masculine or feminine energy is, to try and provide that for their kids. So there's definitely all these elements, and maybe that could break down the relation. Well, I guess with single parents, there's no one else. But if you're still in a relationship and one takes the back seat when it's, that contrast, then the other one has to step up, and that can actually hurt their relationship. And it's probably really hard to verbalize what it is that's causing that, but that could be, you know, one of the main reasons to address. So I think the image that you're talking about, Bijan, makes the most sense for people that identify that strongly and are attracted that strongly to that feminine or masculine. So I think that's where it applies the most. And then to other people, it gets more wishy-washy. So Polly, if you are super masculine and you want someone super feminine, then it's probably pretty important for you to unpack that. But if you want someone who's also got some like maybe more masculine traits, or yourself, you don't see yourself as masculine, then it kind of like shifts the conversation, if that makes sense. Deep, I see your hand up. Go for it.
Well, I've noticed, just throughout years of just, relationships and stuff, I've noticed like a guy that's real dominant, and is the main breadwinner. He doesn't want, in my experience, most of the time, he doesn't want another equal partner. Like he doesn't want someone that's like a law firm partner. You know what I mean? Like he wants somebody that's below them that he can make their housewife and do his clothes and handle the family. And me personally, I like an ambitious woman, a woman. I want her to hustle harder than me, and that doesn't intimidate me at all. But I noticed with a lot of my friends, they can't handle like a tough woman. You know what I mean? Like because she's always so busy with work, and she's always on the phone, and she's in meetings, and she's actually an attorney, and she just can't seem to hold down a relationship because the guys that she chooses are they feel inferior to her, if that makes sense. And they get real jealous, and it just ends up not working. And for me, like I said, my most successful relationship was with a girl that was more ambitious than me, and I'm quite ambitious, like really ambitious.
Thank you so much for your insight, Deep, because I love that you shared that, because there's so many variations of what people want and out there. And I honestly, like, until I ask someone directly what they're looking for, I usually don't know, and I will not assume I know. Yeah, exactly. There are some people that, just will not have it. And some people that are like, no, I'm absolutely fine with it. And it's really important to know what you want in someone else. So if you are the dominant one where you don't want someone who's, more successful, ambitious than you, then you're probably going to be resentful about them the whole time. So that's not a good fit for you. Please find someone who's, fits the thing you're looking for. And if you're happy with someone ambitious, then absolutely go for it. And then you'll probably have some resistance from your guy friends that don't get it, but you get it, she gets it, and that's fine. So yeah, there's all sorts of variations. Paulie, I see your hand.
Yeah, this whole idea of ambitious women, which is really, I mean, if we're honest, historically, this is a very new thing, right? Like we live in a time now where women, are not only allowed to work as they should be able to, but they're almost forced to, right? We live in a society now where you almost need two people to keep a household together in the workforce, and that's a completely different dynamic than humanity has ever experienced, from the beginning, right? It goes against what we are programmed to be, by nature, right? So we're actively trying to navigate a new way of being, and I do think that this dynamic has is sort of made things confusing for us in relationships, right? Like it's deep. You touched on how it can be tough for some guys. I think it's tough for a lot of guys, and honestly, I think it's tough for the girls too, right? You talk with most women, and what are they looking for? They're looking for a man who's honestly on a higher level than they are, right? Like they want a man who's taller than them, that makes more money than them, that they women are programmed to want to be with a superior man. It's just how we kind of operate, right? You want strength, you want command, you want someone that you feel safe with, you want someone who's going to take charge, that someone's going to be able to be the head of a home and a family, and allow a mother and her children to be safe and grow and thrive. So this, I mean, we're struggling as a society to navigate this, right? And maybe what we're moving to is better, right? But it's different. So a lot of things come with that, and it's growing pains, right? So kudos to you for seeing what you like and being cool with something that maybe others aren't. We all need to look for what makes us happy, and good on you to look for what you think is best.
I love that. And most people don't know this, but as like my religion is Zoroastrian, and it's about a 4,000-year-old religion. About 2,500 years ago in Persia, when it was really big, and Zoroastrian was the main religion that we had, it's where human rights started, and we had equality between men and women, and we actually had paid maternity leave for women 2,500 years ago in Persia. It's Iran now, and it's very not, they need help with human rights there now. But yeah, for actually like our religion, we're a very small minority in the world now, less than 200,000. But that's something that we actually had a long time ago, which maybe most people now don't identify with. But I just wanted to put that small thing out there. Bijan, if I see your hand up, and then I know Armand wants to speak as well, so I'll get him in the queue.
Sure, thanks. No, I mean, I love this topic because it tells us about who we are, right? What we're attracted to and what we're drawn to is really important. And, we have to be non-judgmental to people that might be different from us and might want different things than what we want. I think for me, maybe the most clear way I can put it is there's a lot of people, not just girls, but guys as well, that might see some dude who's wearing a flashy watch or driving a flashy car and assume, he must be kind of an asshole. Because, like, look at this guy. He thinks he's got everything. Like, look at how he walks. It's like, I think a lot of people that are successful are often arrogant, because power corrupts, and they end up thinking they're better than other people, and they get this inflated ego. And it's not just for guys, it's for girls too. And, I think I've been basically, what's the word, trying to do more affirmations to be less judgmental. But I think I do still have some biases that I'm working on. Of like, if I know someone, guy or girl, and they're successful, I kind of assume that they're arrogant, or they think that they're better than other people. And I don't know if anyone else feels that way, or if you've been able to get through it or process it. But I almost have a hard time believing that someone really successful would even want to be involved with someone less successful.
Yeah, I remember there was a speaker that I heard, I think in 2015, that touched on like the whole power corrupts thing, because that's such a widely spread phrase, even that I've grown up with, in Australia. And money is evil, power corrupts, all these things. And I really, really like what this speaker said in 2015. And she said, power and money reveal like a magnifying glass of like the person they are. And there are incredible people in the world that have changed the world, in such amazing, huge ways, and they've used all of the things, the resources or things they have, to magnify their goodness. And so like I heard that in 2015, and that's never left me. And I just I really try and embody that in a lot of it, and I've changed my perspective based on just those few sentences that woman said on the stage. I don't know, I just thought I'd share that. It was kind of related. But love that you're thinking about this stuff. Deep, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and Starboss knows me pretty well. In my early 20s, I was making a lot of money. Good money. And I was real flashy and bought all the watches and the shoes and all that kind of stuff. And now that I'm over my 40s, I don't want anyone knowing my financial situation. I don't flash anything at all. I don't buy a flashy car. I don't own a flashy car. I don't want people thinking that I don't want to attract women just for my money, in other words. You know what I mean? Like, I dress like if you were behind me in, Publix, you would not know the amount of money that I have. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to brag or anything. I don't have like $1 million, but you know, um, I live very comfortably. Let's put it that way. And but I don't flaunt it at all like I did when I was 25 because, like I said, it attracts false friends and it attracts gold diggers. In other words, I hate to use that word, but I agree with what you're saying to a certain extent for sure. But like the last thing I want is a Lamborghini. And I could probably get one if I wanted to. I put a big payment on my monthly statement or whatever, but whatever, I'm not going to buy one. I don't want a car that has any kind of Wi-Fi in it whatsoever. If you look at my profile, the very first thing that says is I value my privacy first, and I don't want to be tracked by anyone. I don't want to be tracked by, like I said, I drive an older Cadillac that doesn't have none of those bells and whistles. And I don't want people, because if you pull up in a brand new Range Rover, you're going to get approached by a hot looking chick probably 9 times out of 10.
Interesting conversation. Yep. There's perceptions around all of these things. So what we do attracts certain people, and we're going to be really intentional about what we're looking for. So I agree. All of these things are relevant. Armand, I know you wanted to say something before relating to the energies of the different people. I know the conversation's gone a bit, but I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I guess I'm with, all I wanted to say here is with energies of different people. I think that judges people are very individual. I don't think I realized it until, after hanging out with Kimia. Kimia talks and interacts with a lot of people. And, as a result, like I, kind of interact with more people than maybe I otherwise would. And yeah, man, like people are just very different. And I think categorizing people with broad strokes, it's like easy. And yeah, I don't know, it's easy and it's like stuff like that. But I think in reality, like everyone is pretty different. It was very astounding to me how different people are. And kind of the other thing I wanted to say is, I'm one of those people who like deep, who, really, is after like, a woman who I feel like is very ambitious and who I can be equals with. And, something I found out, which is good to know, is a lot of times it means that, hey, man, like they're like, not only are they doing everything you're doing, but then they're doing like, all the, they're like having a career, they're like taking care of the kids, they're like working 4 jobs. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, one of the things that I actively try to do is, I don't know, try to figure out ways to where I can, contribute equally on all those other parts too, and not just, career wise. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I think another thing that we noticed between us, especially on this whole like energy thing, is that Armand appreciates that equality thing more and stuff like that. And I definitely needed to, I don't know, I feel like I needed to be with someone who like would let me like do these things I want to do. But I realized like I also appreciate like a guy taking the lead and being like the protective, providing the stuff. And like I'm more on the girly girl side. And because of life circumstance, I've become more like, gotten a lot more like masculine traits to, counter. But yeah, like what I'm attracted to as well. So yeah, and sometimes like in our conversation, which is really interesting, like I will let Armand have the final say, or just like, I don't know, like I don't know, like it's still like I kind of put him as the head of the household because that's how, I don't know. So there's a bit of dynamics there that we have to navigate. But it's helpful that, I feel accepted and appreciated for the things I want to do. But then also like when I'm like, take the lead, like he's going to take the lead. So that's also like something we're doing. Polly, I see your hand.
Yeah, no. So I recently read the book The Way of the Superior Man. I don't know if anyone here has read that, but it really talks a lot about the masculine masculine man, and it talks a lot about this topic about the interaction with masculine and feminine, and how even in gay couples, usually you see one person take on one role more than the other. And that throughout, in especially now in this new age, women will take on some more masculine roles. One thing that he talked about, which was really important, is that if there was a clear delineation of the two in the relationship that mattered most, it was when you were intimate, right? So in an intimate moment, one partner, if they can take on the more masculine and one partner takes on more the feminine, and it's a mutual thing, that's the one area where they suggested it was the most important to have that clear line. But throughout the rest of the day and everywhere else in the relationship, it's both parties could share, and it's not there isn't a one size fits all for any relationship. But having those intimate moments are really important for us in our relationships, and that dynamic, and that is where we really bond and we connect. And I mean, it's how we end our day and how we start our day, right, in bed together. It's I say the book's The Way of the Superior Man, and I get how weird that sounds if you haven't read it, but it's actually really interesting. I think the guy wrote it back in the 70s, and they readapted it, and I took a lot from it. I thought it was a really interesting read. And it really touches on that feminine masculine dynamic. I think that's something we don't really look at as much now, especially in we've seen masculinity be sort of demonized, right? Which toxic masculinity is, we don't want toxic people in general, but there does need to be, I think, a healthy masculinity, whether it's wielded by men or women, right? So this is such a fascinating topic. I'm so glad we're having this discussion.
Love it, love it. Thank you for bringing it up. And I think from what I've read as well, like in the sexuality, like during sex and stuff, I think the energies are really important from that dynamic. And like it's obviously a very easy thing when one is submissive and one is dominant. And if both people are wanting the other person to do the other thing, or like they want equality or something, like the dynamic is something that there's some friction there that you have to overcome, and it's very simple when it's like magnets. So Deep, I see your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in real quick. It's nothing long. I don't like to talk for minutes and minutes and minutes, but most problems in this world, not just relationships, employer, employee, whatever, they all stem from miscommunication.
They do. I feel like you really hit the nail on the head. I appreciate you saying that, because I couldn't agree more. And so how to navigate all that and communicate clearly and directly is so valued, and something we all need to practice, including me. I can get better at it too. Let's try and do like one Reddit question together. All right, so I've got the title of this one is a 34-year-old female and a 40-year-old male, and the title reads "Situationship between me and avoidant attachment." Of the different people. And then the bit of background is I've been in a situationship with a disorganized, currently dismissive, avoidant learning guy for almost 2 years. I'm securely attached, anxious leaning, when anxious or otherwise very stressed. We fell for each other immediately. He has ex trauma. She was physically, emotionally, psychologically, and who knows how else abusive to him. He was in that for 7 years. I'm the one he admitted the extent of the abuse to due to unwanted embarrassment and shame. He pulled avoidant on me and then kind of ghosted. Not fully, but mostly. After the fact, I found out that he started dating someone else. Someone he has absolutely nothing in common with. When she dumped him, he came back to me, but as a mess. I say this lovingly and for conciseness. I was essentially his wife for months. It was way beyond friend or girlfriend level. He was raw and open and vulnerable with me. He cried in front of me. He got better about expressing himself. He told me he was sexually assaulted for over a year as an 8-year-old. We used pet names for one another. He always wanted to hang out. He invited me out with his friends. He had me meet his family more than once. This was easy because it was all theoretical. The psychotic ex still had her things in his house, and moving her out was a theoretical conclusion to that and a real turning point for us to become something legitimate. And then the Reddit question just goes on like for 4 more paragraphs, pretty much saying how even when the ex got her stuff out, it actually didn't help them become more legitimate, and then he became more avoidant, and then like they're just going through this like loop of him becoming avoidant. And so I guess everything we've talked about, what do you guys think when you hear this story where she's asking for advice? If you guys were trying to be relationship experts, how would you respond to this one?
Sounds like a codependent relationship.
Get out.
Codependent, get out. Okay. Yep. Anyone else want to chime in or give any more explanation on it?
So, I mean, avoidant types, this is like a perpetual cycle, right? So you kind of get to know, the closer you get, they will push back usually, right? So if you're going to continue in this relationship, you do have to understand that you are going to get pushed back. You're going to be pushed away. It's a defense mechanism. Um, the avoidant types are terrified of commitment because if you commit and then you lose it, it's like it's a pain that's very difficult to deal with. So if you never actually commit, then if you lose it, it hope maybe it won't hurt as bad, right? I think that's the mindset. So if she cares about this guy and she wants to be with him, this is kind of what she's in for. That's just kind of the way it is. Maybe down the road, over time, he can fix some things with himself, right? That's what you hope. But that's going to be a him, right? She's not going to have any control over that. We have to unlearn the big lie we tell ourselves. So it's up to him to make that change. And for her, she needs to understand that this is how it's probably going to be until maybe he makes that change.
Love it, love it. I'm going to touch on this in a bit. Real Mad Max, I saw you came up. Go ahead.
So I think there's something interesting here, like when it comes to extremes, that's valuable across like a lot of relationships, because just using a little bit of the snapshot that we got of the picture, like these two people obviously care about each other. They cared about each other ahead of time. It's hard to put in context any reason for the breakup, but one thing that stands out to me that's very interesting is the extreme hot to extreme cold can be as exhausting as it is invigorating. And I think that a lot of people, when kind of making relationship choices, can get caught in that pendulum swing and kind of not zoom out enough to see that pendulum is going to keep swinging, because it's natural for the ebb of the relationship. And judging the extremes can be made towards understanding the completeness. If that makes sense.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, that's some really good insight there. Bijan, I see your hand. Oh, I don't know if my voice came through, but great
Yeah, no,
insight.
I don't know if he's just vibing. I don't know if he got his hand up by accident.
Okay. All right, so you guys
Real,
heard me.
yeah, real. That's an interesting point. I've heard people talk about this, and how it, especially for anxious types, it's almost like a drug, right? Like you start going through withdrawals, which can almost make this back and forth exciting. Where it's like you're sitting there waiting. Are they going to respond to my text? Like, where are they? And all of a sudden they respond, and you're like, you get that dopamine hit. And it's almost like they're conditioning you to constantly chase. Man, this is complicated stuff. Yeah, this is so interesting. I've been loving learning it, and hearing this conversation this is great.
Thank you, Paulie. Deep, I see your hand. Go for it.
Well, the way that we date now is like swiping, and it's online. It's like you don't get hooked up with your friend that you work with, and like she's gonna hook you up with a nurse that she works with, and it's all swiping, and it's just like you can't judge anyone by words on a piece of paper or on a website. Tone of language. I mean, the way you say things, not so much what you say, and your body language really is how you read people. You know what I mean? It's not so much what they say; it's how they say it. And I played poker for years, and it's all about body language and tone of voice. I mean, words on a text is just words on a text. You know what I mean? And words on a online dating profile are just words on an online dating profile. And we've all gone to online dating. Like I've had like 2 online dates, and they didn't work out at all. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of had a feeling they weren't when I first met the person. I was like, this isn't going to work out. Like when I walked in, her apartment was a mess, and I was like, this isn't going to work out. I can't deal with somebody that is sloppy. I got to have somebody that's clean. So I just knew right off the bat, which she didn't put in her profile, that her apartment was a mess all the time. And so it's just the way things have evolved, and And like I said, I mean, you can't really judge a person by an online profile. You got to go out and meet them, listen to them, and you can't ignore red flags. If you see a red flag, you can't ignore it. And I don't like to talk a lot. I just like to chime in, but that's really all I got.
Thank you, Deep. I hope people are listening to the stuff being said today.
PSA: if you have a messy apartment, please put it on your dating profile.
Please put it on your dating profile. That's exactly. Honesty, everyone. From this,
that way you can attract the other people who have messy
also
apartments.
messy. Yeah,
and then you can bring your messes together and make one very large mess.
that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because
That's love.
my place is spick and span. You know what I mean?
100%. And maybe in the future when you talk to people, even if you're texting, you can just ask them how tidy they are with, I don't know, just
how much of your floor space is visible
yeah.
on average.
Yeah. Armin,
Honestly.
I think you just defined dating perfectly. Two people bringing their messes together.
Love that. Exactly. All right, guys, back to the Reddit question. So when I read this one, I was shocked that this has been going on for 2 years. The fact that they're in a situationship for 2 years is already a huge red flag. If their intention is to be with the other person in a legitimate way, it seems like the girl wanted things to progress way quicker, and the guy, maybe has different goals, or there are things holding him back for different reasons. But this has been going on for a long time. So the first thing that stands out to me is that boundaries are not being set. And, obviously, if she said she's the secure one in the relationship, and so let's take her word on it. Obviously, we don't know for sure, but we're using this as an example. So you can't control other people. So we can't control like the avoidant person that she's with. So the only tool that she has, besides communicating clearly with what her boundaries are and what she needs from him to feel like, she's making progress and in a relationship that's, more healthier and one that she wants to be in, is to figure out what she wants in a partner. Obviously, there are moments in here where she's not being treated well. Like at one point, he just ghosted her and started dating someone else. Like if you think you're about to be in a committed relationship and someone, is doing that to you 2 years in, that feels awful. So just figure out what you want in a partner, at what timeline you want things to progress. And then with this person, because it's not a brand new person she's dealing with, this is someone that she now has like 2 years of history with. So knowing everything she knows about this person, and as you guys rightly identified, it doesn't look like there's any like big changes happening besides him becoming a little more vulnerable and sharing with her his past, which is absolutely great. But his behaviors are still in a avoidant and in a loop. So in knowing everything she knows about him, how long is she willing to wait, and what steps does she need to get from him to feel like they're making progress and they're getting on the right track to where they both want to go? And then, also it would be great for him to also think about these things. But again, you can't control the other person. You can only control yourself. So yeah, having a sit down, really thinking about what she wants in a long-term partner and how quickly she wants to progress the different levels, and then how much time and steps she's going to give him to correct these to become more healthy in their relationship. And if he's not taking the steps when she's communicating really clearly and giving the amount of time that she feels okay with, and maybe if he wants a bit more time, they can negotiate on that, on the timing. But if he makes progress, great. This, and then he can also say, hey, look, I can make this progress, but like, this is what I need from you to make this easier for me to be able to do these things. Those are great conversations to have. Those are steps in the right direction. But, if he just gets defensive, pushes back, says, you can't control me, I'm going to do my own thing, I'm going to go at my own pace, I don't even want to settle down. Well, then you have to think about, well, do you want to settle down? Is that something important to you? Or like, what is what you want really different to this other person? And how much are you willing to wait? You've already waited 2 years giving everything you've got. How much more are you willing to wait? And the only thing you have in your control is to communicate clearly, boundaries, and if it's not happening, leave. So I don't know obviously I haven't talked to this person, but those things would be the steps that we'd go through for this person to navigate this situation. So that's kind of very quickly how I would address this situation, having heard it. And obviously I'm assuming something, so I would need to talk to the person to make sure I'm understanding the situation well and things like that. I do have another meeting, guys. The conversation was just so good, and I had one more Reddit question, but I might save that for next time. But yeah, thank you so much all for coming on. I really appreciate it. The conversation was really good. We'll have another Twitter space next week. The reason we didn't have one last week was because I was in the plane coming to Australia from America. Haven't been back home in 3 years, so it's been really nice hanging out with my family. And Armand's here with me too, which is awesome. So I also got sick yesterday. So again, sorry for my voice and the sniffling. But I will see you guys next week. Same time, same place, new topic. Awesome, guys. Have a great week and wishing you all the love lives of your dreams.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.